almost 8 o'clock. So I guess I should stop this now. And, yeah, hell with it. Let's just get started. Hey, welcome back to ShredMentor Live. I'm your host, Jason Aaron Wood, and tonight we are dealing with rhythmic problem solving. That is probably not a super exciting title or topic, but I have to tell you, it is the key to so much. In fact, let's just go back to where we were a second ago while I was just jamming and getting warmed up here. Long time ago, I actually made this here, but I would definitely put rhythm right in the center when it comes to like the core of what music is, the main ingredient. That's the thing that's really the element that gets the listener to just move involuntarily, physically moving. They feel it. This is the thing that gets you nodding your head, tapping your foot, moshing into your friend, whatever it happens to be. It's the impact of the song. The fact that drums exist and can have a drum solo and the music keeps going without any other harmony or anything like that just shows you, really, you can just make weird noises for a while. Rhythm is the main ingredient of music. By all means, if you have a different point of view, make your case in the comments, but I'm going to go with my premise tonight, which is that rhythm is the main ingredient of music. And you're going to have a hard time convincing me otherwise, but maybe you'll do so in the chat. Mike, how you doing, man? Good to see you here. So tonight we're going to be doing what I think of as rhythmic problem solving, and that is I'm going to try to make it so that the rhythm fits. Okay, so let me take a peek over here real quick. Let me just Google Images, music notation, measure, right? I'm going to do this real quick. I just want you to see this. Okay, so, right, a measure, right? We've seen this before, you know, there are this many notes in a measure and blah, blah, blah. And it just tells you how to make it nice and neat on the page, right? Well, yes, it does, but that's not what it's for. The measure is actually the feel. The measure, that period of time, you know, a lot of time we sort of ignore measure lines because the idea typically takes more than one measure to get there. But there's a lot of ideas that don't have to do that. So when you think of the measure, it's actually the thing responsible for the sound you're trying to make. All right. So we're generally trying to make a complete sounding idea, whether it's comprised of beats or rests. And those beats, on those beats, we might be playing individual notes or chords or just weird ass noises, pick scrapes, whatever. As long as it happens on those specific rhythmic moments, that's all we need to worry about. Okay. And so let's just say, for our purposes here, I mean, this is filling in the time is essentially what a big part of what composition actually is. All right, and that is once again why I would put rhythm right at the center. Notice I got a little occultic here and put the actual, started to assign them symbols of the you know, the elemental symbols of this would be fire, that would be air, that would be earth, and that would be water. I think I meant it. I think I actually did put some thought into it there. Fire being creative manifestation, Promethean fire, the fire of creation. Emotion, water, technique, I forget why. I might have been stoned. I made this a very long time ago, like when I did that a lot. Anyway, but your notes, your scales, your melody, your harmony, that's air, because that's actually vibrations in the air. So I did think that one through. I remember what I meant there. And rhythm is what you feel. That's the solid part, the actual physical motion. So emotion is just sort of water, you know, anyway, if you follow any of this outside of what I'm assigning it to here, you might already see how that kind of corresponds to water. Water does tend to get associated to emotion a little bit. It's almost like if you picture your subconscious mind as an abyss, that is the abyss right there. That's where things, they affect you deeply beyond your level of thought. It's more of a physiological kind of response to it. Emotional response. Anyway, though, more importantly, rhythm, though, right at the core of it, that's your physical body. Without that vehicle, you're not going anywhere, and that's the thing we want to kind of drive people with to get up and move. It's the thing that also makes people go, whoa, how tight, that's crazy. Oh, sorry, where's my whoa? I need, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I had to do it because I have that there. Let me just put that back up here where I can get to it. And anyway, okay. All right, so we're going to be dealing a whole lot with guitar practice tools tonight. And that would be the thing we're looking at here, right? But guitar practice tools, okay? So in your guitar practice tools account, if you don't have one, by the way, set one up. It's free for 30 days and it's only $10 a month after that. You have a whole month to decide if getting really good at guitar a lot quicker is worth $10 a month to you. So it's kind of win-win. Go over to guitarpracticetools.com, set up an account real quick, and you can go in here and follow along if you want. It's going to get real confusing because I'm going to be playing the beats along to it. But we're in the Guitar Practice Tools menu right here. So if you're logged in, you go over here, Guitar Practice Tools. It'll take you right here. We're going to go here, My Backing Tracks. I've already loaded it up here, and that'll take you to Practice Beats, okay? Because that's rhythm. That's one of the 3 main backing track types I've got on the website. And not sponsored by Coke Zero, but I accept sponsorships if I want to offer it. The main backing track type, I would say, is right here. That's why when you go to your backing tracks, it defaults to that. All right, so it's going to also default to a specific set of beats. All the beats on here are at different tempos, but it's the same beat, and it's 10 minutes long no matter what. So I don't just cut it off after X number of repetitions. I want you to have 10 minutes of uninterrupted practice so that you can flesh out your ideas and just keep going. And also it helps you to structure your practice time that way by everything being 10 minutes. The easiest way to structure your practice time and get good at a lot of things is to stop practicing only one thing a day and practice, let's say if you have an hour, 6 things every day. So that way you're not just doing like one ingredient of your playing every single day. It's going to take forever. So this is part of why it's all built into the system of how to practice more effectively that I've been using for years. And these are the tools that actually got me to where I eventually got. So I fully endorse it because this is just a website version of what I was using before I made it. So anyway, so we're going to be doing some different stuff. Essentially, though, before we get into this, okay, as I said, rhythm, filling the time is largely what composition is. You're filling an amount of rhythmic space, and these are the walls. This is the walls of the container. The measure lines, that's what that is. This amount of time being structured this way gives you this rhythmic feel, makes you feel this way, makes you want to move in this particular way. So these measure lines, that's the walls of the container that you're filling time with, and we're going to structure that in a way that makes it make sense for your listener. Okay? So, anyway, filling an amount of rhythmic space. With what? Okay, so, well, notes and chords on a basic level, sure. But more usefully, we're going to fill them with intervals because, to the outsider, to a non-musician, or to somebody who's very early on in their musicianship, it looks like we're just playing a lot of notes. It's not incorrect, but that makes the notes seem random and unrelated to each other. So intervals right away is actually more about the spacing between notes and therefore how they interact with each other. There's immediately a relationship when there's an interval. So you're not thinking about one note at a time typically. And if you're thinking about one note, you're thinking about also the note you just played. So it's still an interval, usually. Okay. So not just individual notes, but more about the note relationships, and they're chosen for their relationship to each other. Okay. So I could, I'm not needing to play on every one of these, but I'm going to play just a beat so you can hear where I am in time. This is going to be double bass drumming, 90 BPM, 16th notes. So the kick drums are going to happen on every 16th note. All right, and I'm just going to grab 2 notes, but you might notice right away what they are, as they're how they're related to each other. How might I have arrived at those 2 notes in particular? If you've been playing for maybe even a couple months or more, you probably know what those 2 notes are to each other. Let me know in the comments if you. I'll hold out for a minute. I'll try some other notes that are related to each other nicely. All right. First one, let me know if you can figure out what that was. I went. I'm filling the time with simple, long, sustained notes. But in this case, it's about an interval. I used a perfect fifth, also known as a power chord. Or at least it's a power chord when you go like that and play both of them together. Okay? So that's part of it. It wasn't random at all. I'm going to use notes that really go very well together based on... Just don't reinvent the wheel. Go with what you already learned, like what's used in other songs. Chords, you know, power chords, actual regular chords, triads, major chords, minor chords, sevenths, sus2, sus4, whatever. All the different chord shapes you've ever learned, those notes are already related to each other in a certain way. So using the notes from them, arpeggiating the chords, that is, playing a chord one note at a time. That's how we arrive at those those note relationships, rather. Okay, so chords are essentially where it gets even more complicated, but essentially it's just the same idea as intervals. It's just a more complex interval relationship, more of a set of notes that need to be this far apart, and they give you this feeling. Okay, that's kind of it. That's harmony in a nutshell. Okay, so let's not overcomplicate it when we talk about notes and chords. We're not just randomly grabbing different chords and notes. The chords themselves, even going from one chord to the next. Well, how do I know what chords go together? Well, we all know we generally want to try to stay in key most of the time, right? Unless there's some, unless you know how and why not to stay in key, you want to stay in key, right? And as soon as a singer starts singing out of key, we all complain, right? So staying in key is a pretty well-known priority, right? So a key is a scale, and every note in that scale has a chord. So those are the chords to use together. All right? So I'll use chords this time. Okay, I got a little creative with it because I like harmonic minor. I like different kinds of things. I went with more of a a classic rock kind of approach there, not with the guitar sound, but with the chord choices. A minor, C major, G major. I had to really fight very hard not to do the end of Stairway to Heaven. Because that's... I was really just about there. I had to change up my rhythm just a little bit to make it happen differently. So this is the 1. Alright, from the 3 of the scale is a C major. Down here to G, that's the 7. 7, 1, 2, 3. 7, 7, 2, 4 makes a G major chord in this key. 6, 1, 3. That's the F major chord. Okay, so the 6 chord and the 7 chord, not to be confused with a 7th chord. The chord for note number 6 and the chord for note number 7 are both major in a minor key, and I started in a minor key. And obviously the chord for note number 1 in a minor key is dead giveaway is a minor chord. All right, so just memorizing the order that the types of chords happen in a certain kind of scale can save you a great deal of pain and suffering, frustration really, because it's not so random. You just memorize certain key things, and that's actually one of the strategies that I am going to be talking about in the ShredMentor strategies, which this thing here moving around on the screen there, that's my book coming up, one of 5 I'm working on that I really need to hurry the hell up and finish it and get it out. It's actually basically finished, but I said kind of weeks and weeks ago that I was like, should I include the scale knowledge onion and examples of that kind of thing in the book? And in the chat I said that on one of these live streams, and people were like, yeah, do it, and then I just never got around to doing that part, and so it's still sitting on the shelf. But it's not forgotten, and I get reminded of it every week because it's right here on the screen. I have to wiggle it around manually, but that's it basically right there. So that's one of the things, is the chord type order strategies, memorizing the order that certain types of chords occur naturally in the scale, just as a byproduct of how the notes are spaced out. Okay, so that saves you a whole lot of trouble because you already know that essentially chords come in a set of 7, and If you get the bonus pack, which is basically memorize also the harmonic minor variation of that, you get 10 chords because you're changing one note in harmonic minor. You're raising the seventh, so that note is the root of its own chord, the third of another chord, and the fifth of another chord. And that's just the triads. So you got 10. You got a 10 pack of chords in every key by just following minor and knowing that there's 3 bonus chords to use, and you have to know which ones they are. So it takes some memorization. You have to work at it a little bit, but using them together uses another one of the strategies in that book, which is the chord progression strategy, which is basically when you practice things, do it in a chord progression. Don't just play scales up and down in one mode. And actually, on the way there, I guess I'm going to mention a bunch of the strategies in this book, because another way to sort of get there ahead of time. It's not quite a chord progression, but it's essentially just using the immediate to neighboring modes. So rather than chords, I might use like a scale, and I'll use a sequence, but that's my melody. All right. A lot of people will just stop there. Okay, good. What do I do now? No, don't stop there. At least move to the next adjacent mode. If I just played 1, 2, 3, there's a half step at 7 and 8. I just played it. It didn't go anywhere. It's still right there. Play that with a different finger combination and hit the next note on the other side of it. And use the same number of notes one mode up and do the same pattern, the same formula for, that's what a sequence is. It's basically the formula for the order in which you play a certain number of notes. This one runs on 6 notes. You need there to be 6 notes to play the sequence I just played. So just starting with notes 1 through 6 in the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is called the 6-note zigzag, because you go up 6 notes, back down, and then up. No repeat notes at all. Up a mode, back down, down a mode, back up to the middle note. You know, so the middle, you have like sort of a central mode that's your main focus, but you're getting some peripheral awareness on both sides about what's over there, what's over there. What do my hands need to do differently, or what does this hand need to do differently? Because this hand doesn't do anything differently. It's the same exact movements. What does my fretting hand need to do differently to access the notes one note over in the scale? We don't want to transpose it and play the exact same thing. That's not the same thing. Transposing is taking the exact same interval pattern and moving it up. That's a key change. Don't do that. Not for the purposes of what we're talking about. Key changes are fine, but you're not getting the benefit of what I'm talking about if you do it as a key change and just move the same shape everywhere. That's not what we're talking about. Modulation is to move to a different set of the same 7 notes that make up your key. That's what we want to do. So you have to learn the specific ways that your hand has to transform. So that is the 3 modes strategy. It's sort of like a step before the chord progression strategy. But let's say I do what I was doing here with the chords. The chord progression strategy applied to that same sequence. 1, 3, 7, 6. That was the random chord progression or combination I decided to come up with, but now I'm going to follow the same thing. There, that's it. I just applied the sequence in 4 different ways, in 4 different places. Okay, that's basically it, right? Oh yeah, so let's go back to this. This is where the beats come in, though. Okay. Getting back to what we're talking about with rhythm, I applied rhythm, but the sequences themselves, I will talk about that. That's the other thing, okay? That's the next thing. What we're playing, again, we're filling rhythmic space. We already talked about doing it with intervals and chords, which is, just more complex interval relationship. But then sequences. I just brought it up. That's actually the next thing. Again, we're not just randomly playing notes. I mean, sometimes you can. It's fine. It's a little easier if you don't do it that way. But playing notes in a certain order, okay, it gives you more of a theme. It's a more recognizable type of strong theme, and it could be any melody. A sequence can be based on some random order. What makes it a sequence is that you're taking whatever order you played those notes in the first time and applying it to a different set of the same number of notes. Okay, I'm going to make up a sequence right now. I'm going to use all the notes of the octave, so there's going to be 8 different notes, okay? 1, 8, 7, 5, 6, 4, 2, 5. Never played that melody before, but my head told me to do it. That's how it goes. All right. Anyway, 1, 7, 6. Actually, I didn't use all of the notes of the octave, but I'm going to keep those numbers intact because it's a scale degree thing now. So that's actually where the numbers I use in my sequences actually come from. Anyway, but 1, 8, 7, 5, 6, 4, 2, 5. All right. Now, that was harmonic minor, so I got to stick with that. Same idea down here. Anyway, yeah, final note. That's the note I heard finishing it off, but it's the same concept moved over 2 modes. All right, so I had to slow down. Obviously, I'm not ready to, shred through that one yet because I had to think through, like, how I'm going to modify what my hand does to reach those notes. Which note would that be if I went up a note from here? So it's about the relationships between the notes once again. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that's how a sequence is born. I make up a melody, and now I apply the formula from that melody in the order that I play that many notes in to another place in the scale. That's it. That's a sequence now. At first, until I do that and move it somewhere else, it's just called a theme. Okay? So anyway, I hope that clears that up a little bit. A theme is the original concept. Another theme that's very famous is what comes after that. The same idea applied elsewhere. Right? So anyway, getting back to rhythm again. All right. So now, I was talking about... Oops. Shorten out a little bit. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and play my beat here. This is a 16-note long sequence. Okay. So part of the thing is, if you don't already have it, by the way, get the book of sequences. It's only $10, by the way. You can go... Actually, go to ShredMentorOnline.com/products, and it'll be right in there. There's also a hardcover version on Amazon, as well as a paperback version, which is through another print-on-demand service. And there's also those are more than $10. But there's one for $10. It's the ebook version, which has a lot of cool little links that you can click through to other pages in the book. So it has some bonuses that are not in the actual hard copy of the book. But get that, because the thing is, maybe about 1 to 2% of that book consists of sequences that are not readily put right into a normal time signature. I gave you a whole bunch of vocabulary you can use right out of the box in that book that is already... It made the cut to get in the book because of the fact that it's very useful, because of the fact that it fits into a common time signature. So tonight, I'm not really dealing with common time, I'm not dealing with odd time tonight, but everything I'm saying completely still fits that. And if I have a little bit of time here tonight, I will also put some odd time stuff together, although I don't really have... I guess I could squeeze something odd time-ish into normal time, but I guess I'll have to just do like polymeter, where I play one time signature over another. Whatever. We'll get there. Anyway, so counting through your sequence one time, how many actual notes it is to get the phrase length is always a very, very good idea. So if you've ever had trouble counting or keeping count as you play, you're going about it all wrong. Because if you're trying to keep count of the entire thing, that's where you're gonna hit a number that has too many syllables in the name, like 7. Don't count to 7. Never count to 7. You can. But don't count to 11, okay? 11's going to throw you right off because it's got 3 syllables and you're still only on one number. So anyway, count the whole thing through one time without being rhythmic about it. Just count it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Then you know, yeah, cool, that worked out great. 16, that's a multiple of 4. That's like 4 beats of 16th notes in 4/4, or 2 measures of 8th notes in 4/4, or 4 measures of quarter notes in 4/4. So, you see where I'm going. There's a lot of different scenarios where you might come up to something like 16. It's very 4/4 friendly. It's 4 times itself, so it's really just asking for it. So there's, I know sometimes music can come off like there's a lot of math, but it's not that there's a lot of math. There's just a lot of the same math problems over and over again. It's just multiples of 4 and multiples of 3. You don't need to know your whole times tables to do this. You just need to know a couple multiples of 3 and 4, and you'll be fine. And you need to be able to recognize those numbers once you count to, oh, my phrase length is this. Or if it's, let's say it's something weird, like 33. Well, that's not, it's a multiple of 3, because it's 3 times 11. You can see that one. Sorry, I was going for the nearby number. Let's say it's 37. 37 isn't, that's a prime number. I don't think there's no numbers that multiply to 37. But you know what? 37 is very near another multiple of both 3 and 4, which is 36. 36 is 4 times 9. 9 beats of 16th notes, maybe. 36 is also 3 times 12. 12 being a multiple of 2, 3, 4, and 6. So 37 isn't all bad when you think of it that way, because it's just 36 plus a final note. Or if you don't want to have a final note after it, maybe you want to end a subbeat early, you tack an extra lead-in note to the very beginning of it, and you still treat it like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 until 36. But you don't count it up to 36, as I said. Don't count with anything bigger than a single syllable number. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that works great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's fine. I don't recommend using big numbers to count, because you count the whole big thing one time, find out what it's a multiple of, and that's it. So this is the problem-solving part. I'm finally to the point. 27 minutes into the show, finally to the point. This is the rhythmic problem-solving I'm talking about. All right. So, yeah, when I'm talking about solving problems, I am talking about arriving at rhythmic numbers, arriving at these numbers that are multiples of mostly 3 and 4. Okay, but if not, let's say you're going for something odd time. It needs to be a multiple of whatever the basis of that is. If it's 5, it needs to be a multiple of 5. If it's 7, it needs to be a multiple of 7. So it's not hard, but you do need to figure out, kind of try to determine a length ahead of time. Treat it like an empty container that needs to be filled in with this much. Preferably have a practice beat like what we're doing over here. That helps a lot. Yeah, because having stuff like that, this to your left side of the screen there, it helps a lot when you actually have something that you can actually play this stuff along to. All right, so let's just jump in here and play this now. Now I could just jump in. I just went fast right away because I know this is definitely compatible with 16th notes in 4/4. I've done the math. The problem solving is over. Okay. A lot of the time I will use bits and pieces of fretboard shapes that I already know, and so let's take a sweep arpeggio. I'm going to stay with A minor for tonight, just for alphabetical convenience here, but maybe I won't. We'll see if the mood strikes me or if I forget or something like that, but I'll try to stay with A minor. All right. It's very common to do sweeps like this. Right? Little 3-string, what I call small sweeps. It's actually 4 notes, but you have 2 notes on this string, 1 note here, and 1 note here. I actually do it the other way around usually. I think of it as note layout. 1, 1, and 2. Usually go from low to high in terms of what string. But that note layout is what makes it sweepable. So something like this. Let's do our first step here. Count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the first note I started on, so we stop counting when we get there. I want to find where it starts over. All right, so the first note, don't count that one again because it'll throw you off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. It's a multiple of 3, not a multiple of 4. How do I get this to work as a multiple of 4? Well, in this case, if you're not sure, play it 4 times. Now it's a multiple of 4. I would probably play this more like triplets, though. So 1, 2, 3, or 1 triplet, 2 triplet, right? I can always force it, like polyrhythmic style, over 16th notes, but I'm going to actually play it as the 16th notes. I'll slow it down a little bit so we can kind of problem solve at a reasonable pace here. 80 BPM. All right. So, one time. All right. It's basically going to be 3 beats long if I do that. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 1. All right. So that was playing it 2 times though. 1, 2. All right. So it lands on a beat, but it doesn't land exactly on a measure. Again, if I play it 4 times, maybe it will, but I don't think it will be. No, because that's going to be 6 beats instead of that. So I need to do 8 times. Then it'll be something like, I think, 3 measures. So let's try that. I'll try to count it without screwing up here. I'll go a little faster here. 90. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, worked out. So it might need to be a multiple of 4, not just 4 times. Metal rules. Welcome to the show. Can you show me that sweep again? Yes, certainly. Okay. So, by the way, this might be a little unintuitive. I know a lot of people, when they start this sweep, tend to use 4 fingers. Don't do that. Use your first finger, and you jump back and forth between the 9th and 8th fret. But start with your first finger on 9 on the 3rd string. Middle finger plays 10 on the 2nd string. Then you just reach down a little bit and do 8 with the first finger again on the 1st string. And then upstroke on 12, pull off 10. So it's 9, 10, 8 with 1 downstroke through all 3 strings. 9, 10, 8. And then come back with 1 upstroke and lean into your 2nd string with the pick. Pull off, upstroke again. That upstroke jumps over because I want the sweeping. I want to take advantage of as many notes as I can hit with 1 pick stroke as possible. So you want to get on the other side of the 3rd string with that so you can drag right through. All right. Cool, good. All right, so this is how I take things that don't fit and I make them fit. This is, again, the rhythmic problem solving. I'm going to do something similar, but I'm going to switch my beat, okay? So I'm not going to use 4/4/16ths. In fact, I'm going to use 4/4 triplets. So I'm going to switch what type of number I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with 3s, not 4s now. Except I'm still actually going to deal with 4s. This is what I've just been using for, like, I don't know, 18 years or something. I just love using the sequence of 4s, but forcing it to be triplets. Sequence of 4s is just playing through your scale 4 notes at a time. So, like, so that's what that would be across the strings. I'm not sure if I'm going to go up and down the strings or across. Who cares? What matters is I'm going to do that sequence. It's 4 notes at a time. So 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I'll probably go down the strings. But what I'm going to do is actually do it 3 times, so I know that it's a multiple of 3. So 1, 2, 3. So what you do is you introduce multiplication based on the number you're trying to make it compatible with. All right. So it's not really about it being, I don't know, it's 12 this time, but it's really about making sure it's a multiple of the number you want it to jive with. Okay, so I want it to be triplets, but it's a sequence of 4, so I will do it 3 times for the triplet feel, and now it will be a multiple of 3, and I can confidently start to just accent it as 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, because it will pretty much be however long it is times the number you're trying to multiply it by. So it will be, it's 4 times 3, 12. All right, so 12 is a magic number when it comes to rhythm as well. So let's do that. I'll do 12 plus a final note. So I'll just throw that raised 7th of harmonic minor in there. Anyway, just feeling the trills. Anyway, so yeah, that's sort of how that works. I could do it 2 times, which really nice, by the way. One little nice feature about the sequence of 4s when you're going to do it with a 3-note per string scale is that it kind of exhausts the 6 notes under your fingers on 2 strings. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So if I just limit myself to those notes, you'll notice I start on the highest of those. I've just exhausted all 6 notes that are right under my hand there. I would need to either go down or up another position, or I need to continue on to another string if I want more notes. So 3 notes per string wise, I've just used up the 2 strings I'm working with. So I'm going to move down. So I'll do... So I'm kind of restarting the sequence of 4 from higher up again, but 1 note higher than the first time I started it. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's do it a little faster, just so I can get my 4 count back. All right. So yeah, that's how that works out. So I can just do it. I could do it 4 times now. Let's do it a little faster, just to get my 4 count again. First time was the improv flying by the seat of my pants. Second time, I knew how to fix that problem with the bend. I was like, anything to get that bend. Pull up on the whammy bar. Anything. This is why I like Floyd Roses. Most people hate them. I get it. I understand why, but I like them. Extra features, extra functions. Anyway, so I've talked about 2 of the 3 main things I want to talk about here as far as, again, we're filling an amount of rhythmic space with what? 2 of those things are intervals and interval relationships, which includes chords and or arpeggio relationships, scale tones and their relationships to each other, and then also sequences, which gives me more of a structure to build melodies on. And we talked about the actual rhythmic problem solving of it. I'm trying to arrive at rhythmic numbers that are multiples of whatever my time signature is kind of asking for. So 6, 8, well, you can go for multiples of 6, but frankly, multiples of 3 will probably do. But the last thing, which is going to add all of the variation and actually really kind of, I would maybe do this first, but sub-beats. That's what we're actually filling the measure with, okay? And I want to show you where this really makes a big difference. Let me get rid of my happy delay. As much as I love delay, I gotta turn it off for this because it's gonna throw me off, and it's also gonna make it harder for you to hear what I'm doing. So I'll leave the reverb, that's fine, but I don't want something repeating after me because that will really screw things up. Okay, now back to the beats here. Okay, so I'll just go with, I don't know, 140 again. So I could originally just, remember I said I was going to stay with A minor? Well, this is where I forgot. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to use open strings here. All right, so this is triplets, but I can go in between, and when I say triplets, these are eighth note triplets. I'm actually going to go with 120 because I want to be able to. This is the eighth note triplet pace, but this is the quarter note triplet. Those are just regular quarter notes. Back to the eighth note triplets, but also sextuplets. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Don't ask me to play that again, but anyway, that was just playing off of all three of those different rhythmic sub beats. Okay, different. I was combining them, improvising purely, but I was, using the sextuplets as a burst of speed. Keep coming back to the. I kept the main eighth note triplet feel consistently, but occasionally. That slowing it down and using the quarter note triplet feel, which is like every other eighth note triplet, that gives me a different, almost like a breakdown feel, and it adds a lot to the rhythmic interest. So that's what the end result might end up being. It needs to fit in here, and each time that I did it, that it felt like a new idea was starting, it also coincided with the first beat of a new measure a lot of times. So the crash cymbal would come in, that. Just press, by the way, pro tip, if you just press record while you're doing that, you got one of your two guitar lines already recorded for you, and it's a really progressive metal thing all of a sudden. Anyway, that's what I do, by the way. Improvise, harmonize, fix. That is harmonize, do guitar 2 now, which takes a lot longer because I got to go through piece by piece and try to learn my riff now that I just totally made up. So, as I said, don't ask me to play it again because that would take a very long time to learn because I have no idea what the hell I just did. B Phrygian stuff, B Phrygian dominant stuff. I don't know. That's about it. Triplety stuff too, but that was about it, right? So The rhythm is the container that this all fits in. Okay, and so it needs to be a multiple of that. I need to be able to keep this rhythmic feel going. So different kinds of subbeats are going to give you very different phrases. All right, so I'm gonna create one really quick. Okay, okay, that. There, that's my rhythm pattern. Okay. I'm going to count how many actual things that is. Okay, I'm actually, and rather than when like the sextuplets, like all 6 of them, I'm stopping short. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 5, 6. Treating it like 6, 8. By the way, it's much easier to count triplets like it's 6, 8. So I'm not going to do 1 triplet, 2 triplet, because trip and let are not numbers, and it's really hard to keep count when you're not counting with actual numbers. So I would convert it over to the other way, to counting it whenever possible. All right, 1 and 2 and 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. That's 8 and 3. 4, 5. All right, so that's 11, and then that's 8 and 9, 10, 21. Okay, so why am I counting this? I'm going to do something that is 21 notes now, and I'm going to play it to that rhythm pattern. Okay, that's why. Rhythmic problem solving. Okay, how many notes do I actually, how many beats do I need? Start with the rhythm pattern because it moves already. I've already established that it works really nicely. If I go. Right, that, okay? I'm not going to do that, though. I'm going to do something more shreddy, right? So now let's try something that actually works with, like, you know, several notes, right? Using sequences to build up to that. Or pieces of them. I'm going to use, see, the thing about sequences is it's sort of, they work like a length of cloth. Just pretend it just goes on forever and ever. You don't need it to go on forever and ever. You need to cut it from the part where it starts to the exact part where it ends. You need a specific length. And so that's where those measure lines come in again, from here to here. I'm going to cut off whatever happens after that. I might even tack on a couple notes if I end up short, right? All right, so anyway, that's my rhythm pattern again. Okay, so it's this sort of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and then a quarter note triplet, which is 1, 2, 3 more. So the first thing is 8 beats long plus 3. That's my 11. I'll go back to A minor. I meant to be in A minor. Let's do that. I'm going to stay with A minor, the arpeggio. I'm going to start a little slower here because I'm adapting it here. Yeah, so it's 2 quarter notes after that. And then you can you can just choose different notes if you don't like the way that you colored it in. But that's really what it is. I'm creating the outline. It's like a coloring book. The rhythm is the lines. What notes you decide to put in there, that's just what colors you chose. If you don't like it, try another color scheme, because once you practice grooving in a cool way, that I guarantee you a really cool rhythm pattern is far more powerful than whatever you decide to do with it. So, you know, come up with a bunch of different ways to make that rhythm pattern come alive. Actually, the rhythm pattern is what makes it come alive, but color it in different ways. You know, all right, so. I don't know, stuff like that. There's a lot of cool things you can do, and if you have a beat going, you know. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. There's all kinds of different ways you can color it in, and this is where your improv skills can get really good, because you're just trying things, but you're along a rhythmic theme now, okay? And I've also, you know, again, let's try something a little bit more linear, okay? Because the thing I did was just a little bit more composed on the spot, which to me that is what improv is, but let's say you're practicing your scale runs with what we just did there. Again, I'll use a harmonic minor, because let's just face it, harmonic minor rules. So dun 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 dun. I'll just do just that first one. Alright, so real quick, I forgot that it's then, right, I only want 2 notes, so I'm skipping one particular note, and I feel like this is a little bit more, it's more like a blues rock kind of sound than that, which is a little bit more of the more classical kind of sound I would use harmonic minor for in the first place. So it's just, I don't usually mix those two flavors too much. So that's how I choose which note I'm going to skip. So instead of, so when I had 3 back, you know, going back and forth between that same number of notes is going to work either way. So that's another kind of cool way of getting to know your scale and playing it in both directions to a rhythm pattern. We've already done the rhythmic problem solving, just go up one more note and do the same thing back. Right? But the thing is, again, I have just dun, dun at the end, so I'm just using a 3-note per string scale all the way down. I'm not able to see the chat here, so I'm not missing anything. Thanks, Mike. I'm glad that you like it. Yeah, Mike says, that's really cool how you demonstrated these concepts. This is how I use it when I write on the fly. Okay? When I write, when I talk about writing, like songwriting, I mean recording. So automatically, so what I said earlier, you know, like just press record and you've got some technical metal on the fly. Of course, getting your second guitar done and making it sound tight means you got to relearn the whole thing you did. But this is what I do when I come up with things on the fly. This is also very much how I write my solos too. It just needs to work against the chord in the background too, and primarily land on one of the notes in the chord when the chord changes. It doesn't matter as much, especially when you're if you're doing like a, as long as if that's my chord, I need to make sure that I'm not going like. or I don't want to land on this when that's the chord, right? So it doesn't really matter, you know, when the notes are going by that fast, the individual notes in that run, as long as I stay in the scale, they're not individually that important. But as soon as I land on a note and hold it out, that note's really important because that's different from all the other ones, and that note is not rushing by faster than most people can think. So the speed thing is more, it registers as more of a blur. Rhythmically, you know, still, you know, you still need to be rhythmic about it when you do it. So, you know, I'll do that within the, you know. Yeah, let's just do it a little slower. So it needs to still actually lock into the rhythm. It's not totally a blur. The rhythm side, I mean, speed is basically rhythm. that's what rhythm. That's what playing fast really is. It's rhythm. It's all rhythm. So it's in a way, it's kind of a weird thing that rhythm guitar is called rhythm guitar, because lead guitar potentially is way more rhythmically demanding, because you have to be able to deal with really, really fast stuff while different notes are going along too. So it's everything that all the requirements of playing really intense rhythm guitar are also built into lead guitar, and then some. then you got other stuff. Metal Rules, second that. This really helps. Thanks, man. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. So one of the things that yeah, I guess that kind of... Okay, so yeah, I'll read you right what I had for my notes here, because I'm pretty sure I covered everything I was going to say today, and with 4 minutes to spare. Fantastic, right? But basically, yes, subbeats. All right, these add all the important variations, and ultimately, the rhythm pattern you're playing defines how many notes you need. All right, so how many notes fit into your melody. So this makes the difference between 4 beats and 12 beats, or 32, or anything in between, right? So it really depends on what you're actually going to do. And I wouldn't have guessed that it was 21. I very rarely need 21, but yeah. You know, and then you can, you know, when you have those slower beats and the rhythmic variation in there, the slower beats are where you have more time to do things like, you know, because you're going to have a note you can sustain, hit a pinch harmonic, do some vibrato on it. So you get to have a variety of different textures in there, and it automatically just comes out a lot better. So rhythmic variation resulting from rhythmic problem solving. You know. It's not working. My app's frozen. That sucks. Anyway, rhythmic problem solving. So anyway, that is actually my show tonight. So thank you very much for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this. This is what I do all the time. This is how, in my opinion, this is the way to write music, by recording it. So yeah, I think I should just jump right on over here real quick and talk about this from this perspective. This is what the total artist development system is actually about too. This is one little piece of it here, but this is the one thing that goes into every aspect of this. And you know, when we were talking about this here, okay, let me run over to my browser so you can kind of see this here. Okay, right here, this is when you're logged in and you're in the total artist development system, enrolled. This is your main thing here, but aside from start here, it's basically 3 pillars here. It's a 3-pillar or 3-part strategy, and it's kind of a pipeline to take you from wherever you are in your playing and get you as good as you can possibly get to being able to actually apply things and in real time, improv skills, which you saw me using a great deal tonight. Your ability to be spontaneous, make the types of sounds that you want to make in a rhythmic way on the spot. You're not just doing whatever. You're fulfilling very specific requirements on the spot. You're composing on the spot, though. Okay, spontaneous composition is really what true improv really is when it comes to music. Anyway, I know that in common everyday speech, when we say I'll improvise, I'll wing it, but we're not winging it. We're not. I hope that it's clear that I didn't just purely wing it. I did a little, but not really. Some of my choices were randomized, but I had very specific criteria that I had to fulfill the whole time. Okay, and then of course you have what that turns into, and this is where it actually transforms that ability into near tangible, or at least virtual tangible, actual items, songs. You know, recordings of songs have transformed our lives. If you're watching this right now, it's because your life was once transformed by some recordings of music. Your favorite bands that got you playing, it's because of the recording of those bands. So this is how we pay it back, and we pass this torch on to the next generation, as we take that voice inside of us and we pass it on to the next generation in the form of really great music that you're feeling right now. Nobody else has your vision. But you might be in a place right now where you're stuck and don't know what you should do next, or what to do. You might be missing some steps, or you're just simply want some reassurance that you're on the right path, or you want someone to guide you through it. That's what the Total Artist Development System is all about. It's basically everything ShredMentor has ever stood for, which is obviously teaching you how to shred, but how to be spontaneous with it, how to be a composer, how to write and complete an entire album on your own, which is something I've done 6 times, and I have like 3 of them sitting here on the back burner waiting for me to just finish them now. Ever since I've been a dad, it's a little harder to do it as quick as I used to, but if I didn't have the requirements I have now, I'd be back to just doing an album a year like I used to, and one day I will do that again. But in the meantime, I got all these albums just sitting on the shelf waiting to get done. That said, you might be in a different place, right? You want to start actually recording your own albums, releasing them, or you want to start doing it yourself, and maybe you've done it with other people, but now you want to start doing this on your own. Get in touch. Go to ShredMentor.com. This is all right there on the screen now. It is anyway. But yeah, let me help you. That's what I do. And there's a lot of really difficult ways to go about it. There's a lot of seemingly logical ways to actually go about it, all wrong. And I don't really want you to go down those pitfalls. I've faced a lot of pitfalls in my life, and I've worn a lot of hats. And, you know, from guitarist, person auditioning to be in a band, person who got in, person actually holding the auditions for other people, saying yay or nay, person letting people into the band, the person firing people from the band, the person responsible for doing the live sound for our band. I mean, setting up our monitor mixes, our in-ear mixes, doing the actual mix of any backing tracks for our orchestral parts while the rest of us play along to it for the in-ear monitor mixes. I've done some amount of film score composing, so 2 of my tracks are in National Lampoon's The Legend of Awesomeness Maximus, and so on. And also my wife has also sang on like World of Warcraft, Diablo 3, World of Warcraft Cataclysm specifically. She is like the entire voice of StarCraft 2. You know, so I've gotten to see that soundtrack side of this music industry as well. So I can help you in a lot of ways. Seriously, I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying that you don't need to actually reinvent the wheel and figure this all out yourself. I can help you. So anyway, if these are the types of things that you want to be doing in your music career or anything like it, get in touch. Go to ShredMentor.com, fill out the form, tell me everything about what you want to do, tell me what your influences are so that I know what direction you're trying to go in. Let's make this happen. There's no reason why you should just be sitting there on your dream. I don't want you sitting on your hands until it's too late and you just don't have it in you to do it anymore. If you're thinking about it and you're feeling motivated, now's the time. Strike while the iron's hot. So ShredMentor.com is the place to go. If you like what we're doing tonight, by the way, you can get access to these practice tools at guitarpracticetools.com for free for 30 days. Just create an account. You'll just log in and you can have that entire menu at your disposal right here. All these different tools, and occasionally I add more tools. There are a couple that I haven't published to this page yet that I've actually featured on this show before, but it's all there for you, right at your fingertips. It's National Lampoon's The Legend of Awesomeness Maximus. Came out in 2000. I think it finally came out in 2011. It was on Netflix. It comes and goes on Netflix from time to time. I only did 2 of them, so I'm not claiming to be the main composer. That was Scott Glasgow, who did the awesome orchestral stuff throughout the rest of the movie, but he was generous enough to tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, would you like to do a metal track and a rock track? It was a sort of a... I basically did, what was it called? It was Metal Battle. There was a battle scene I did a metal track for, and then there was also, what was the other one? Training Montage, where it's sort of, it's very 80s. I kind of pulled all the stops on the 80s rock cliches. So Anyway, I think it's a funny movie too. It's you know it's a National Lampoon comedy, but anyway, it's if you're into that kind of comedy, I like it. It's basically a spoof on Sword and Sandal type ancient type movies. So it's kick-ass. It's got spoofs on let's see, little bits of, it takes a jab at Braveheart and 300 and trying to remember what else. Anyway, it's a lot of fun though. So check that out too if you're interested. Hey, Mike, thank you, man. I'm glad you were able to be here tonight. Thank you, Metal Rules. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for joining me tonight. I do have to get going, but I hope that this was good food for thought. I'm glad that despite Rhythmic Problem Solving being the name of the show, that you still joined join me here tonight, because I know that's probably not the most exciting thing, but hopefully that kind of gives you something to work with, because in the end, I mean, that there's never really a time to not be playing in time. You know, that rhythm is the movement. That's the life, the rhythmic breath of life that makes music come alive. And it's the big difference between actually music a lot of the time and just noodling, you know. So have there be an accent, have there be a specific count. Keep track of, should this be triplets? Make it feel and sound like triplets. Make it sound, or like 16th notes or sextuplets or whatever it's supposed to be. But anyway, that's it for tonight. Thank you very much for joining me, and if all goes well, I'll be back next Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern with the next edition of ShredMentor Live. Until then, rock on, my friends.